Well, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Joining me once again for a report on all things financial here in America is my good friend Bob Kudla. Bob, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, Red, how you doing? So we had a Fed day.
Yeah.
They did not disappoint. Basically, the Fed's going to just buy everything forever. So I think they're afraid. I think they're truly afraid of the alternative.
Well, before we get into that, do you want to tell the audience who Trade Genius is, what you guys do?
Yeah, so what we do is we educate and we inform and we provide trade information for the stock market. So either the cryptocurrency market, the stock market in general, and we also have a futures trading room too.
And Bob, you brought some charts along. It looks like you guys are doing pretty good.
Yeah, so because of our way our algorithm works is that we're seeing some tremendous opportunities and look, we've been riding the gold, silver miner trade up pretty well. So I brought you a chart of some of the trades we did there. Oil's really been beat up pretty badly, but that meant the oil tankers have been doing well, and we've done really well with that trade as well. And then we've had some really good opportunities around some biotech stocks. So there are opportunities in the midst of this pain, and that's what our system does, Red. So we just keep finding those day by day and just take advantage of the opportunities. And how we do that is we created an algorithm, that we call the profit ribbon system, an extremely profitable system that we provide that for people, like they can actually put it on their own computer. We have chat rooms where we could talk about what trades are setting up, what help people may need. We provide a series of training courses that are part of the service to help you get up to speed very quickly. And then we actually provide trade signals too. And so we do really well. And we're open 24 hours, 7 days a week. And, we're in those rooms as we trade. And what we did also, Red, is that we created a couple of bundles for your listeners to take advantage of it by Thursday evening, midnight, the end of the month. We pre-discounted them. We call them the Trade Genius Stimulus Plan, and so we made them really affordable for people to take advantage of what we're doing. And in a lot of cases, one or two trades is paying for a whole year's worth of the service. So I encourage people to take a look. We have a very high profitability rating, and in terms of wins and losses, and we just trade regular things, so we can really help people take advantage of the downtime, or maybe a backup plan, or just to take more control of their financial life. So thanks for letting me share that. And just go to tradelikeagenius.com. You can text us, you can chat with us, you can email us, and you can even give us a call. We'll be happy to talk to you.
All right, sweet. And as always, the link is in the description. So what is going on with the feds? I mean, like you said, they're buying everything. I mean, the amount of debt that they have on the books is astronomical. It's off the charts. It's more than anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, so, it's a really interesting concept they're doing, because a lot of people saying, hey, we're going to go like the Japanese. We're heading in that direction. The Japanese are already at 100% of GDP that their central banks bought. So Japan's basically owned by their banks, mm-hmm. And we're about 25% of the way there. And so if you give them the benefit of the doubt, what they're saying is that we're pulling debt off basically the private banks and giving companies leeway so they don't have to go bankruptcy, basically saying we're solving a solvency crisis to allow people and the businesses to get back in motion again after this forced shutdown. If you don't believe them, then you're saying that this was another grab of assets on the cheap, that eventually the banks and the enablers behind the banks, whomever they are now buying up more of America with our own currency. And so that's where it is. So if you just look at it from a moral standpoint, it's really a by the time move. Mm-hmm. And for us as traders, and we look at it is that they're basically not letting the market fail at this point.
What about people who maybe got into the market anticipating it would fail? I mean, there's something called shorts I've heard of people talking about. I mean, this is something that was big in the run-up to the crisis in 2008. A lot of people made a lot of money back then. as well as a lot of people losing a lot of money. But I think there were some people who anticipated being able to make money in that exact same way during this expected downturn. And President Trump and the Fed kind of threw that upend and on his head.
Yeah, I mean, look, just because it worked before doesn't mean it's going to work again. The Federal Reserve, they learned from what happened in 2008, and in fact, they got caught. They got caught, I would think, off guard in February. I don't think anybody expected. I think the oil market, when the oil market crashed, I think it caught a lot of people off guard, and so now they just went ahead and just basically said, we're just going to vacuum clean this. So being short this market right now has been a bad move on your part, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to be vindicated. Just because Japan bought everything in sight, the Japanese stock market had wild swings where it routinely lost 20, 30, 40% a year and swung back. So it's not a panacea, Red. It's just you're going to have to time it better. And for us, we just simply look at the price action, and our algorithm has been saying that, there's just too much buying power coming in, and we're just going to have to wait to see if they try to push this thing through and get past the election before they let this thing drop again. I think the central bankers and the powers that be are secretly behind maybe a Trump victory here. I think the alternative probably scares them, in terms of they want socialism on their terms. They don't want socialism on the people's terms. So I think they're going to try to keep this thing levitated for as long as possible. Doesn't mean they're being successful, but right now, you just look at the market today. There was no reason in the world why this market should just keep pushing up. Unprecedented 6 gap ups in a row from overnight action.
Wow.
So we're really in uncharted territory. You can't fight it because we just don't know how much money is being put behind it.
What about regular people? I mean, they're doing everything they can to prop up banks and industry, but when it comes down to it, average everyday people are, most of them, not able to work. They're getting to the point where they're, perhaps not able to feed their families. I know a lot of people who got these stimulus checks or these economic disaster checks, and even with that little bit of extra padding in their pocket, it's not going to make a difference. I mean, they're still looking at finding themselves in a really bad place financially. I mean, how long is it going to take for us to come back from this?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting social experiment too.
Yeah.
Look, if you're young, single, and make less than 30,000 a year, and you got laid off, you discovered a windfall. If you're middle class and got laid off, you're hurting. And if you're a small business owner and got shut down, and you're with the wrong bank, you're not getting your PPP. So a lot of times the small business owners pay themselves too. So they lost their business and they lost their income, and they still have to pay rent. They're the big losers in this. And the wealthy are just always going to figure a way to make a buck from this. So that's the area that I worry the most, is that we'll come out of this lockdown between now and July 1st, what I would call pretty much complete lockdown. But I think the damage has been done for a lot of small businesses in the U.S. And I think you're going to see restaurants, and you're going to see what I would call small service businesses, that you're going to see a lot of bankruptcy, and it's tough. If you live in a downtown city, you're going to just see you're going to look like small town America when Walmart went through.
Do you think that there's an opportunity for people here? I mean, do you see any emerging industries or areas that people could perhaps pivot to as a result of losing their business or their income from this thing?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's always winners in this. And, if you have the ability to pivot, I think you're seeing a lot of emerging opportunities, especially, in terms of robotics and manufacturing tech, and automation and digital communication and things like that are all going to do extremely well. Areas that you wouldn't even consider. I think you're going to see maybe more of like a local farm or agriculture movement come back in. There's people are making a lot of money doing the the DoorDash kind of concept. Uber might die, but you go commercial. A lot of the guys are doing really well in that area too. So those are areas that are going to do well. And if you're in property, if you're in the city, you're in big trouble. But exurbs are going to probably see an influx of people there. So there's going to be opportunities there as well.
What about this emerging problem that we're seeing with the food chain? You may have seen it. There was a video of a rancher that was put out. I believe he was a cattle rancher. He was saying that the U.S. government is preparing to come in and help them euthanize cattle, euthanize sows, euthanize chickens. I mean, and they're throwing out hundreds of thousands of gallons of milk apparently because they're unable to process it, they're unable to move it through the food chain. I mean, why are they doing that? I mean, that just makes no sense to me. It seems like you've got people here in America that are hungry, people that are, in need of food. Why would we want to throw it away?
Yeah, so let's talk about the initial problem. So they shut down one whole supply chain, right? The restaurant, commercial, marketplace, and so you had shortages in the retail space because people were now home, not eating out. And so they had to buy more food than they normally would buy. So the grocery stores were short. But the restaurant and the commercial side was shut down. And instead of being able to pivot, one wholesale to the other, they got where basically one was worthless and the other one didn't have enough. And so that's being rebalanced. Now, this whole thing, which I found really interesting, is that around the whole meat thing, and Trump fixed the milk thing because he just said, we'll buy up all that stuff and we'll give it away to our people, or we'll give it away as foreign aid.
Good.
So he's going to suck all the milk products up and cheese and things like that. But the meat thing was interesting to me because it seemed like it was contrived, like they were trying to create another problem after the virus because that's winding down to keep everybody just off kilter. It started with the Smithfield plant, and the next thing you know, all of a sudden every meat packing plant was going to be shut down for coronavirus, which seemed odd because nothing else was getting shut down by the virus. Mm-hmm. And Trump kiboshed that yesterday. He basically said, strategic industry, you can't close.
Okay.
You figure it out. And guess what? It just went off the news. So that just told me everything I needed to know about how real that problem was. But yeah, I mean, look, they that would have been probably the biggest disaster in U.S. history if they created a protein shortage in the United States because of this. And to me, it seemed like a false problem. And when Trump did that, it just left the news. And I think that's going to be gone too, Red.
All right. Well, I guess that's a good thing because, I had seen several different stories about like a Tyson factory. There was reports that several Chinese pork processing facilities were going to close down. Now, what about those ones in particular? I mean, if those are Chinese owned and operated companies, does President Trump have the authority to tell them to stay open?
If you're processing in the United States, you're subject to the Defense Act.
Okay.
So, yeah. And you know what? And Trump could say no exports, too.
Okay. Well, I was wondering if there was a possibility that any of those Chinese companies could be nationalized, and not just food, but perhaps other things and land that are owned by them.
I mean, you could. But I mean, you'd have to have justification for that. And that may come, when this global solar minimum continues to bite. I mean, if you look at the Northeast, we're going to get frost in through May. So we're going to have a different problem with food in 2022, I think. It may come to that, but I think that was a good shot across the bow that, hey, you're going to open. You're going to stay open. If President Trump didn't do it, that Smithfield plant in South Dakota, the governor was going to order that plant to stay open. Trump has broad authority under emergency powers, so he can absolutely nationalize those plants if he chose to.
Do you see anything else coming up that people are not paying attention to right now? I mean, is there any piece of this that we're missing?
Well, I think the next big fight's going to be is I think there's going to be an expectations gap. So you have businesses that think are going to open, and people are going to come back and buy like in droves again. And I think there's going to probably not be as strong, number one. Number two, they may not get their employees back because a lot of them are sitting there making twice the minimum wage when they were only making minimum wage. Mm-hmm. And I think you're going to have companies that are really going to agonize over that. And then a lot of companies that were given forbearance on their rents, those landlords want all that rent back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's going to be kind of a whiplash effect going into the third quarter that's probably unanticipated. And I think people are going to need to be aware of that. And then plus, a lot of things that were already going down the path, like going from bricks and mortar to online, going to movie theaters to watching at home, where you live, a lot of those things have accelerated and aren't going to come back. So I think real estate is a really big issue that has not been addressed yet. The mortgage rates have not fallen along with the bond rates.
Mm-hmm.
But people are stuck in loans and they can't buy homes because the banks have decided that it's too risky for them to do mortgage loans. So if they don't address that with the Fed in the coming months, I think you may see I hate to use the word collapse in real estate prices, but you're going to definitely see pressure on prices in real estate.
All right. Do you think that we're going to have something like we had in 2008? Like, I mean, a vast number of people losing their homes, or do you think this is mostly going to be in the business sector?
Yeah, I don't think people are going to lose their homes like they did in 2008, just because that never came back. So the people that are going to suffer are going to be the speculators. Like if you're an Airbnb owner, a lot of those guys own multiple properties on leverage.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to see a lot of price issues there, but I would consider that on the commercial side. If you're in commercial real estate, you're doomed.
Oof.
Okay. But if you're in personal real estate, your own property, it's going to probably go down some, but a lot of people have now a lot more equity in their homes. And I think the Fed will backstop those loans and not cause a mass, exodus of people out of their houses.
All right. Well, I suppose that's a silver lining. Well, Bob, when are you really anticipating this shutdown is going to be completely over? You said in July. Do you think that the economy is going to bounce back at that time, or do you think that we're looking at something maybe over the next couple of years before we really see the gains that we had before?
Yeah. So forget the stock market, but from the economy standpoint, you don't come back from this in a month or two. I think this is going to probably reverberate for a couple of years, and I think they're going to get to phase 2 really fast. I think the big political fight's going to be the phase 3, if you will, and I think you're going to see a really interesting phenomenon politically on this, Red. I call it the vitamin D belt. The part of the country that gets a lot of sunshine that didn't really get affected by the level of infections and hospitalizations, basically anything south of San Francisco and St. Louis and all the way to DC, that's going to remain relatively unscathed going forward. The Northeast may see flare-ups, and I think you're going to see a battle of two countries.
Wow. Well, hopefully it's not too terrible. All right, Bob. Well, I want to say thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming and giving us your perspective again.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's going to be a really interesting next 90 days. And, you just take advantage of the opportunities and try to avoid the pitfalls.
All right. We'll be watching. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Red Pill. Just one more thing. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has taken the time to support this channel. If you'd like to see some ways that you can support the channel, you can always check the show notes in the pinned comment of this video below. Whether you like, whether you share, whether you make sure that your notifications are on, any way that you support this channel means so much to me. I could not be doing this without you, and I could not do it without your help. Without people like you, this channel would not exist. So thank you so much to everyone for all of their many means of support. Don't forget to check out the merchandise store that is also in the pinned comment, and I will see you guys next time.